Welcome back to part two of the conversation with Abhinav Mukund on this episode of Wednesdays with WV. Abhinav, we spoke about your cricketing career in the first part, and now comes the second innings of years. The decision to call it a day is always a difficult one. Are you at peace with yourself having done that?
Well, technically, officially, I haven't yet retired, but I know I understand where I am in terms of the current climate. And I feel even with the Tamil Nadu team, I had a great last season. And after that, I just realized this wasn't my place or time or place. And a lot of people even now come up to me and say, you should be playing, you can comfortably play another 3 years, 4 years. In fact, the great Wasim Jafar came and told me, if you had played another 5, 6 years, you could have caught up with me. So I didn't start playing for records. I didn't start playing to achieve this, to achieve that. I feel with my broadcasting, I want to achieve a lot more. I really enjoy my broadcasting and I think it is a second career in itself. I take it very, very seriously. And fortunately for me, I have a lot of work in terms of vernacular, in terms of the regional languages and also in English. So I just want to keep improving and moving on in terms of this part of my life.
Talking of that, your research and your well thought out analysis came in for good appreciation when it came to the auction of the WPL. Not a bad student, young man.
Of course, of course. It's important to call up the people who are involved, like you in case, you in question, so many others who were there. And women's cricket was almost like a new subject to me. It was very exciting because I hadn't followed too much of women's cricket. I hadn't been a part of the women's cricket setup as much. So with regards to the IPL, it's very different. With regards to a smaller league, is very different. But the WPL is was definitely something that I enjoyed doing, and it's important to ask the right people and get your information so that you can say it at the right moment.
Yeah, talking of leagues, the TNPL is gathering momentum. It's into its seventh year. Year on year is growing in strength.
Mhm.
Do you see something like that happening for the girls as well in Tamil Nadu?
I really expected it to happen this year. It should, I think, if not even at a TNPL, we can have about 4 or 5 games to understand the depth of talent in the state. Something like what the challengers were. You had a challenger type tournament till last year for the women in our country, where the Trailblazers, Supernovas, all of them played. There are 3 teams for 5 days. I understand it's a short period, but there is room, there is space, there is if there are multiple talented girls in and around the state, then why not? I half expected it to happen this year, but I'll be very surprised if it doesn't happen next year.
I'm sure that something along those lines will happen very soon. Now, from one end of the spectrum to the other, the Ashes is always a marquee event in the ICC calendar or in international cricket. Are you excited seeing the way England is playing of late?
I don't know, I should ask you, coach, because if you are the coach, would you accept me if I went in first ball, reverse swept a fast bowler over?
No, the point is, it's about what it is that the player is willing to do. And once you get onto the field, there's no stopping anybody.
Correct. And I
That's
think that's what's making it exciting. Because someone like a Joe Root, who's played conventionally all his life, decides to come out on day 4 and reverse switch a fast bowler, at least tries to attempt it. He got a few runs, didn't get out. So why not? More than the batting, I like the way Ben Stokes has approached the whole baseball thing, because baseball to me wasn't entirely about them playing all of these flamboyant shots. I think they're walking the talk in terms of setting fields, declaring under 400 on day 1. These are things he wants to make test match interesting. Yes, why not? He wants more results. Why not? I think the entire team has bought into his idea of this is the way we're going to play. That is always very good when you have a strong leader and the team buys into it. So it's definitely one of the most exciting test series that I definitely will watch. especially when it's against the World Test champions now.
Would baseball be a viable proposition for other nations?
Like I said, I think it's important to have a strong leader and a team that buys into this strategy. The baseball is something that didn't come overnight. They decided this is the way they're going to play cricket, and suddenly it's not a switch that turns over. I think it came through a process of every single player in the team buying into what they were going to do, including the field sets. You can set a field, like you can set an umbrella field in front, and you can't just expect your bowler to come turn up and say, okay, land here. I think it was a process that was built over a little bit of time. And surely if the other teams are able to, if this team is able to do it, other teams will have a different method of doing it as far as I'm concerned, but it definitely makes for better viewing in terms of Test cricket.
You briefly mentioned about the world champions. India had the chance, but once again faltered. This keeps happening in the ICC events. Your take on it?
I think we're giving a lot of importance to these ICC events. Partially, I understand failures occur, but only if India loses. I think there is a big uproar about it suddenly, and people tend to take this for take too much of importance for one particular tournament. I understand we haven't won anything in a while, but if you leave out Australia, who won the T20 World Cup, and then the World Test Championships, I think even the other teams haven't won too much. If you look at it, they've won sporadically, but the intensity in which the Indian team gets flack for losing in a particular game is, I feel, is just a bit too much. All that being said, there is an expectation every single time you play for the country. I know this. I'm aware that even you know this. So that expectation needs to be fulfilled. And there is a World Cup later this year. So there will be a lot of pressure on the captain and coach to deliver something. So I hope they come up with the goods this year.
Is it time to start the transition, or would you wait for some time?
I think the transition has begun. We'll know very, very soon with the West Indies series, at least with the shortest format. I think the transition has begun. With the West Indies series team selection, I think I will expect a few changes to come through. It depends which way they're going to go in terms of those changes. But I think this is the time for you to make the call, especially in Test match cricket with the next cycle till 2025. You shouldn't have a case like Ajinkya Rahane coming back. Yes, he came back. He did well. All that is different. But you can't have a person playing a 1.5-year cycle, and then one guy gets injured. You go back to the other guy who was your vice captain at that point of time. You needed to have 2 or 3 men who were actually ready to face up to the pressure of the World Test champion. I think there are a couple of areas that need to be addressed there. In terms of the middle order, in terms of the openers, wicketkeeper, there are a lot of areas to be addressed. What are you going to do with Ashwin? Because he plays through the whole cycle and then ends up being dropped in the final. So a lot of questions to be answered by the top management. I think we'll have a brief sort of answer with the West Indies team selection.
There's been a lot of views about the way selections are done, be it the national side or be it the zonal side. Do you think there's any merit in people thinking that IPL is obviously gaining ascendancy over everything else?
It is. You can't seem to disagree with that. But the ascendancy of IPL cannot coincide with the fact that you are selected in playing the longest format. If you're a good IPL cricketer, then I would still think I wouldn't rule you out of Test cricket. I would still think you play a full season of domestic cricket, get some runs there, and then try and get into the Test team. But I think the biggest mistake people are making is the fact that you have a good IPL season, and then you're in the Test match side. Personally, I'm not a very big fan of that. I believe Surya Kumar Yadav is the best T20 cricketer. But suddenly he was thrown into the Test team. He spent about 4 tests just sitting out, warming the bench, came in ODI team, 3 ducks on the trot, and suddenly he was nowhere. Even in T20 cricket, he was struggling to find his place back, or rather find his form back. So I don't think you should tinker too much with the strengths of certain cricketers. They might still end up being great test cricketers, but the question that you are asking, I have to disagree with selections in test cricket based on IPL.
Yes, you're talking about Test cricket, so this question will become relevant. Do you think the gap between first class cricket and international cricket is narrowed now?
I don't think so. I don't think so because international cricket is a different ball game altogether, where speeds are much different in terms of bowlers. The skill sets are different. There is no bridge between first class cricket and international cricket in terms of the long format, which is where IPL beautifully fits in. Between 50 overs, 20 overs, and international and List A or Syed Mushtaq Ali, there's this beautiful middle path which is called the IPL. So there's nothing of that sort for the longer format
Come
cricketers.
on, Abhi. The genius of Rahul Dravid is hailed because of the A series happening very frequently.
We haven't had one for a while now, and the consistency of players playing in the 8 overs, they need to be respected as well. Whoever has got runs in the 8 overs, they need to go on and make the grade in terms of getting into the Indian Test team. That is the route that I would expect to be followed. But unfortunately, there are a few players who just come in based on IPL performances, and that's where I think the gap needs to be bridged a little bit.
Is Test cricket in danger of extinction?
No, I would say no, because there are a lot of cricketers who want to play Test cricket. If you ask me the same question about ODIs, I would definitely think so. I think you have to make that format a little bit more exciting. Now that I'm in broadcast, I feel that's my least favorite format of all. But Test cricket definitely isn't. I'd love to watch a Test match, especially if it's between two good teams. The battle between bat and ball definitely excites me. Not sure about the general public, but it's definitely not close to extinction as yet.
You're a modern day cricketer. You know more about workload management. You know the general trends. Now, this practice of this net bowlers being sent with the Indian team, who's looking after their workload? I'm sure they bowl a hell of a lot.
What I'm hearing is that all of them do have uh, workload monitoring systems as well. They're monitored very, very carefully by the physios back in the NCA. I've had the same question about a lot of these net bowlers as well, and I think they're carefully managed because most of them aren't just net bowlers. They are guys who have done well in the IPL or very close to being in the call up for selection. So their loads are managed as well, which is very, very good. And they also get a taste of the Indian team. So I think that it's a very good thing that India now travels with about 25 instead of the usual 15.
On paper, there are a lot of things, Abhi. Anyway, if you were to be 17, what would you do differently?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I have zero change. I have zero regrets about what I was at 17 and what I am now. I think the life's journey has been beautiful. I'd love to be the exact same version of me.
Now, you started early, got things done quickly in your career. In fact, a lot of people even today feel that you're packing it in early. Now, what would be your words of wisdom to guys who are not really getting the success as quickly as they're looking for?
Persist if you genuinely want it. Persist and believe in yourself. That's something that you lack almost all the time. I see a lot of cricketers going and asking people, seeking validation. That is something that I was always blessed with, where I had a lot of doubts in my head, but seeking validation was something that it exists in every single cricketer's head. But the belief that you have in yourself and validating what you're doing is right is very important within yourself. Then you can seek outside validation. When you are satisfied with what you are practicing for, or what the process that you are pursuing, then believe in yourself, the results will follow.
Thanks a lot, Abhi, for your time, and thanks for your interesting views as always. And I wish you all the very best in all that you want to achieve in the future.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure was mine.
There it was, Abhinav Mukund giving you his insights about various aspects of cricket, and also completely at peace with himself, even though a lot of people feel he still has a lot of cricket left in him. But however, it's all about a cricketer wanting to go out onto the field and play, something which he obviously doesn't seem to enjoy these days. However, you're going to see a lot of him in the future as a broadcaster, and hopefully you enjoyed this chat. As I always talk to you about this channel, for those who are joining us for the first time, log on to the handle of Sportstar and catch up with all our earlier episodes where some fantastic stuff has been put up for you. And for those who've been with us all through, keep sending in your comments and feedback, because it's very important for us. Until I catch up with you next time, be good and stay safe.